Hello, and welcome to our Eduro Learning video series, Coaching Fundamentals. In this series, we'll hear from 12 experienced instructional coaches from around the world on topics like how do you define the role of a coach, and what are your best strategies in a coaching conversation. My name is Kim Cofino, and I will be your host throughout this series. I've been really fortunate to be an instructional coach in schools around the world for the last almost 20 years, and I've learned a ton from these conversations, so I am super excited to share them with you. If you like this format, hearing from lots of different perspectives on a single topic, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel to get all 12 videos in the series. Turn on notifications to find out when we're live on YouTube and to be the first to see the next installment. Have questions about instructional coaching, or would you like to see a specific video series related to anything about education and technology? Leave us a comment below and let us know. Want to see even more instructional coaching resources after you've watched this series? Head on over to our website to check out our free resources, more videos, and online courses about teaching and learning and coaching in the digital world. One of the challenges in a coaching role is that sometimes, even though we're just teachers like everyone else, we can be perceived as being a leader within the school building. So today our coaches are going to talk about how they balance being perceived as both a peer and a leader, and what strategies they have for helping teachers understand that we are partners in learning with them.
A lot of coaches come out of the classroom. So they start out as just another teacher, another educator, doing what they do in the classroom, inspiring students, finding ways to make learning really exciting and engaging. And so a lot of times then they transfer out of the classroom into a coaching role. And then they're coaching, to me, is more, it's also a leadership role as well. So once you're out of the classroom and then you have this role of being the coach, how do you balance that with you're not in the classroom anymore, you're not admin, so how does that work? So for me, it's been just continue to be honest and professional. Stick with the goals of the school. It's really about the student learning, and also you're going to be working with people who may not have the same experience as you, so you have to be open to that as well. So I think not coming out as, okay, now I'm the expert on all this, but more of like, I'm here to provide support, and I'm going to also model what we want to have happening in the school. And so I think just continuing to be the person you are, but being open to what's happening in the school.
I've been really lucky at KIS because I wasn't an administrator and because it was just a coaching position. They were really explicit about the fact, Tim's not here to evaluate you. I mean, it was just said, like it would be said in meetings. And I'm lucky here too, because the admin team understands. When I came in, they had actually had the idea of making me be someone who would do evaluation. And I said, if you do that, no one's ever going to ask for help. And so they were really good about listening to me. And they're really good about communicating that to their faculty members and saying, like, yes, Tim is on the admin team, but he's not there to evaluate people. He's there to support people, and he's here to help you. And we've also just added a curriculum coordinator, which is a new position at the school. And Jen's great. She's super hands-on with the teachers. And so I think that idea of like, oh, this is a resource. This is like someone I can use to support what I'm doing is kind of growing. And teachers are really responding to it. But I think definitely like an explicit message from the admin team that is not the role this person has. And then you got to keep saying it to people yourself too.
Okay, so I really don't have an administrative role. I think I'm lucky in that everybody who I work with currently knows that I was a kindergarten teacher. I was hired as a kindergarten teacher to this school, and I shifted into it. So they already kind of see me as like, she gets it. Like, she knows what it's like to teach here in the classroom. Like, I know how much they have on their shoulders. So I think that's kind of advantage on my part that some coaches don't have, because they get hired as a coach into the school. And so they're like, who's this person? Anyway, the leadership part, I don't know. I personally don't see myself as like leadership, because there's two of us and one of us is a team leader. It's not me. And so already I'm like, I'm not, I'm here to coach you. But at the same time, I do have my colleagues who I work with say, but you know so much, like you are leading us. And so I'm like, okay, great. That makes me feel really good about it. Know that I'm still not in your steering meetings or any of that. So I think in my personal situation, it has been a little bit easier because of the many individual things that come together to make me who I am in my role, because I was in the classroom. I'm technically not even the leader of my team of 2. So people don't see that leadership role as something that I guess a lot of coaches are seen as. They know I'm not evaluating them when I walk into the classroom. They know that I'm there to see if I can help. And even then, I rarely get into the classroom anyway. So yeah, I don't think I have that struggle personally. I can see how it might be the case in other schools.
Mike works in the elementary, and we've done a lot of this coaching work together. And we've had this conversation about, it's not our job to assess. It's not our job to, are you using because we're also auditing technology at our school. Like, how's it being used? Is it making a difference? And that can easily fall into, assessing what teachers are doing. We just shy right away from that, right? I think it comes down to the relationship thing as well, right? I mean, I don't have the problem. There's not that perception. We're a very small staff, and we all know each other very well. I get laughed off the block if I mention that I was leadership or admin or anything like that. So it is a relationship, and it is showing them in conversations that that I know pedagogy, and I want to share what I know, and I'm interested in what they know because I can learn from them. But there are moments when you're with a teacher that that are very personal, because this is their craft, and they're having to become very vulnerable by telling you, and then in this bit, I really don't have much in this part of the unit, and really that's just between them and the students normally, but all of a sudden they're having to tell a peer. So there's trust involved that way. And I can see how the perhaps misconception of your role could make that difficult. It could, it could influence the trust piece.
So balancing the peer versus leader thing can be a challenge, but something that's really worked positively for me has been making sure they know my role is non-evaluative. So I'm not coming in there with a checklist looking for, terrible behavior management practices or anything like that. I really am only interested in furthering student learning by supporting them in trying innovative practices. So as soon as they understand that, and that sometimes takes time to develop, then things tend to go a lot more smoothly.
So balancing being a peer and a leader is difficult for coaches. I think there's a couple of strategies. One, I try to never use evaluative language when I'm talking about other people, even to them, like, you're an amazing teacher. While that feels good for people to hear, it also says you're evaluating me. And I work with amazing people. And so I think it's good for coaches to try to use facts. Students were engaged in this. I saw 18 out of 20 students totally into this, right? Like, is a way of saying what we're doing here is amazing without being evaluative about the person. So I try to use non-evaluative language when talking with people about people. That's hard, especially if you're a complimentary person. I think one way to do the balancing between being perceived as a peer and a leader or leadership or administrator is to jump into the other work that everyone has to do and do it from that peer perspective. So I just came back from interim semester where everybody travels with students on these week-long trips. Well, me and my teaching partner are both, I'm a coach, he's a teacher, but on that trip, we are partners, equal. There is no coaching role there. And everybody in a school has to do that sort of work, and there's a lot of it to do. So any chance, I guess you don't ever bow out of that hard work that's not about teaching. Because I would say, up to 50% of a teacher's job or tasks that they have to do isn't about their class they're teaching. And so when you jump in and make sure that you are doing those things as well, you're a part of the team, an equal member of the team. The other thing I think I try to do is I try not to be up in front when possible. I try to be in the audience if it's a large group, or on a team or in a group where for example, if it's about, if we're having a large group adult thing and someone needs to share about an activity that you do with students to get them to know each other's names, there's 100 people to pick from. I shouldn't be that person doing that one. Let's get more voices up in front so that it's, so taking the opportunities to not be up in front, I think is a good strategy. It's not a visible one, but that's the point. It's making you a little less visible up in front and always more learning together in a group setting.
As you might remember from cognitive coaching, there are 4 different support functions, and you can choose which ones you want to use. So there is collaborator, and sometimes I'm in planning meetings and I'm just collaborating along with everybody else. And then there is consultant. And again, sometimes you're working with a group of people and they just don't know something, or they just don't know at all that's going to be really, really good for them. So you might just have to step out of the coaching role and go in and say to them, well, guys, would you like me to give you some suggestions here? And then most of the time I try and stay in the coaching role, but the 4th role I never get into, which is the evaluation role. And I never get into it because it's very difficult to build up trust with someone and have coaching conversations where they can be vulnerable about what they don't know. If at the back of their mind, they're thinking to themselves, oh, well, is this being written down somewhere? Is this being put in a cupboard and it's going to be brought out later and used against me? So I've tried to make it really clear that, in fact, my job isn't to evaluate people. My job is to help them set a goal and to work with them so that they can accomplish that goal. And the goal may be a short-term goal. It may be a long-term goal. I may need to check in with them 2 or 3 times a year, or I may need to check in with them every week. But that time scale is determined by them, not by me. So that at the end of a conversation, I will ask always, well, when would you like to talk some more about this? And some people have quite literally said, well, I'm free at this time every week, so can I just book you to come at the same time every week? And it might only be that I'm checking in and, we have a 5-minute conversation and then, I go. But I think the most important thing here is to be intentional about which hat I'm actually wearing. And so that when people see me in a meeting, when there's lots of other people around, they know I'm there to collaborate or maybe to consult. But that when I'm having a one-on-one conversation with someone, I'm there because I'm a coach.
I basically set it out to people, like in team meetings. You just said, just so you know, my role. This is not a deficit model. That's the other thing. This is not. You are not good at something, you are going to be coached. I said, I'm here to work with anybody who wants to work with me. I'm here. If you know everything about technology, let's work together and let's push. You want to push the boundaries? Some of the people that I've worked with are like tech amazing gurus. They're fantastic, and we're learning together. And I think stating that out there has been very helpful, definitely. I don't think I perceive myself as a leader. I don't see myself as a leader. I feel like I'm a teacher in another role. Like I'm paid the same as a teacher that's in the classroom, and I think that's kind of important. My role is non-evaluative. I guess I just have expertise in a certain area, and I'm trained as a coach, so that's important. I think that makes my role a bit easier because it's not, I guess I'm not the leader. I'm not making these decisions. We're working together. We're side by side, shoulder to shoulder. So for some people, they didn't know that, but I think when they see that, that makes a difference to them. So I don't know if I am perceived as a leader in that sense of the word, like a school leader, maybe a technology leader, maybe, I don't know if that's.
So yeah, I think as a coach, I am a peer to the teachers. I'm a teacher. I'm, on the same pay scale as a teacher, but I am a teacher leader. And I think that can be intimidating for some teachers. So how do you kind of come to terms with that? I think part of it is in the relationship building and, really in the language that you use when you're in the classroom and when you're having a coaching conversation, and really focusing on, this is about helping you focus on something that you want to grow in. But it's a fine line. And the teachers know that I met all of the time with admin. I mean, I had a standing weekly meeting with our administration. So I think for me, and I don't know that teachers would see this, but one thing I really tried to do is just be very sensitive about the information I would share with admin. Obviously I would share successes, but sometimes even the successes I would ask the teacher, can I share this with Mr. Pratt? But some of the, I never wanted to come across as like, if you fail doing this tech lesson, that Heather's going to go tell the principal and I'm going to be in trouble. Like that would just be a total fail. And so sometimes I would wait until we would turn that failure into a success and then share it with the administrator. Because I think that, our school did value taking risks with tech. And I think that was just part of the culture of our school. And that helped me balance those two things. But yeah, that can be a hard one. And I think it really depends on the culture of the school. Yeah.
So I think, we do kind of have our foot in two worlds. We in my setting work very closely with admin on looking at systems and structures, but we've been very clear that we're not to be in an evaluative position, because that's not what we do. And as soon as we start evaluating, then we become an evaluator, and then we lose all credibility as a coach, in my mind. I think it takes a while to build that level of trust, but I think what you really have to do, if you're a supreme listener, then you actually understand and help a teacher get better at what they want to do. So you're not seen as pushing an agenda, you're helping to further their personal agenda or their professional teaching agenda. And I think over time, I think transparency has to be supreme as well. And so over time, if you can show teachers how whatever you're putting together, whatever you're trying to move forward, if you take what they're giving you as input and show them very specifically how their input has shaped and determined pieces of what you're pushing forward. So you have to have a pretty tight feedback loop between what teachers are saying, what you're implementing, and then feed that back to the teachers and show them, okay, this is how I'm using what you said to put this together and move it forward. What do you think? And you have to give it time to work itself through, and then also communicate to them that it may not be exactly what you thought or what you think should happen, but we're taking a more global view, and based on what everybody has said, this is why we're doing what we're doing. But continually gathering that feedback and pushing it in, I think allows you to have a little bit more credibility.
So in order to walk that balance of, I'm not there to judge you, I am your peer. Sometimes there's a perception that a coaching role is, I don't know, middle leadership or middle management. I think the tone of your conversation is really important. I think if somebody is struggling with that, even something as simple as talking about the stuff that you are struggling with too, or just being compassionate about that, I think sometimes people will do the, what, you've never heard of that? You can't do that. Because I think about, if I'm having a conversation with somebody that teaches chemistry, they have this whole world of knowledge that I know nothing about. And sometimes, if the stuff that you love to geek out over, they might not, but everybody's got their own sort of passion. I think the tone of the conversation that you have with people is super important. I think if you want to be very formal and you want to come across as a know-it-all, you can do that. I think if you want to come across as somebody who is compassionate and just like that person is a learner, you're a learner, that's the tone that you need to work really hard to strike. You know, again, I think as many opportunities that you can find to work alongside of people, I think that if you can offer to co-teach things, that's a really high leverage opportunity. So I think if you're saying, let's do this side by side, even something as simple as if you're meeting with somebody, sit next to them, don't be sitting across from them. I think as many times as possible is that you can communicate, I am working on this with you. And kind of we're going to take these steps together. That's a better way forward.
So I think the challenge of being perceived as both a peer and a leader is it's a really fine tightrope to walk, and a lot of it will depend, I think, on your school's situation and where you as a coach are within the staff. I think most coaches that I know, they're actually, I mean, they're teachers. They're not administrators. They're not on an administrative package or anything like that. They are just teacher leaders within the school. I think if your school has a healthy culture of encouraging teacher leaders in every aspect, whether it's curriculum writing or talking about policy or student discipline or things like that, it's easier because everybody has the opportunity to be seen as a leader if they're willing to take up that responsibility. And you know, this is not like a paid responsibility. It's just something that I think I'm passionate about and I think is important, so I want to do it. I think if you're in that sort of school, it's a little bit easier. I think if you're in a school that kind of uses it as almost like a wedge or a divide, then there is certainly a big challenge in that, you know, and part of that has to do with sort of your day-to-day classroom responsibilities and how you are perceived by others. Well, you know, they don't have grading, they don't have marking, they don't have reports to write. And you just have to be really, really aware and really, really empathetic to that. And also, I think, you know, sometimes it's worthwhile to let people know what it is that you actually do. Sometimes you're kind of a black box. People don't know what your day-to-day schedule entails. You know, like the number of meetings that you go to, the number of planning sessions that you go to, the number of curricula in which you are familiar with, so that you can have conversations with all of those teachers. Let people understand that, you know, you are more than just somebody who comes and jiggles the cables and unplugs the wires. You are somebody who, you know, you are a professional resource who has knowledge across a wide range of curricula and across a wide range of applications in order to kind of give inspiration to those teachers.
Sometimes being a coach puts you in a bit of a tricky situation. You're kind of a peer and you're kind of also a leader in your school. So hopefully all the experiences of these coaches will help guide you as you continue to define your role as a coach and balance that tightrope between being a peer and a leader. If you enjoyed today's video, please head over to our website at edurolearning.com to check out more great resources on coaching and parenting and teaching in the digital age. See you there.